So you're going to need to pick your yarn. So I have this wool blend. I'm not sure what brand it is, unfortunately, but I believe it's a 4-ply yarn. And you're just going to need to pick what color you would like. Then I'm using size 5 straight needles. And you're going to need a cable needle. I use straight needles to start off with, but the amount of stitches will need something much longer. So a cable needle works best. And you'll need a stitch marker and then a sewing needle for finishing off. And you'll need 2 buttons for detailing the front of your hat. So we're going to be working this hat flat and then sewing it together later. So we're going to start with the ear flap and we're going to cast on 6 stitches. Now you're going to want to make some sort of marking because this is going to be the front of our work and we're going to need that as an indicator later on. So I just have a removable stitch marker and I'm just going to slip that around one of the stitches to indicate the front of our work. So for row 1 of our ear flap, we're just going to knit across all 6 stitches. And this is worked in just garter stitch, so we're just going to be knitting every row. So on row 2, we're going to start our increases. So on our first stitch, we're going to knit in the front and back loop. So just going to knit through the front, swing around to the back loop, knit it again, and we've increased. Then we're going to work across to our last stitch. And we're going to do the same increase. So we're going to knit through the front and back loop. So now we have 8 stitches. So every increase row we're going to add 2 stitches. So then row 3 is just going to be a plain knit row. And now we're going to repeat those rows until we have 12 stitches. So you want to work an increase row and a plain knit row. Once you get your 12 stitches, then you're just going to work garter stitch until your piece measures 3 inches. So when you finish your 3 inches, you want to make sure that the right side of your work is facing you in your right hand needle. And you're going to go ahead and cut your yarn. Now we're going to cast on for the center flap of our hat. So you want your ear flap facing the right side towards you, and you want the needle in your right hand to cast on. And we're going to go ahead and cast on 21 stitches. Now you can put the ear flap on a stitch holder if you like, but I'm just going to be adding all the pieces onto the needle. But you can do whatever is comfortable for you. So then you want to work the mid flap for just over 2 inches or however much you want it to fold up back onto the hat. But I'm doing just over 2 inches. So again, just like we did with the ear flap, we're going to make sure that the right side is facing us. We're going to smush everything to the end of our needle. And we're going to cast on the next 6 stitches for our second ear flap. And then we're going to go ahead and work the ear flap the same as we did the first one. So once you've made both ear flaps and the centerpiece, your ear flap will end up on the other side more than likely. So you're just going to transfer it over to your left needle. So now you have your ear flap, your middle piece, and your other ear flap on your needle. So because this is so many stitches, I'm now moving over to a cable needle just to hold all of them. So now we're going to go ahead and cast on half of the back stitches of the hat because we are working this flat instead of in the round. So we're going to work half on either side. And I'm going to be using the invisible cast on. because you can then cast on within your work, so that'll help us a lot later. So I do have a video on how to do this, but I'll just quickly show you here. So you start off with a slip knot, and you're going to go through it to knit, and you're going to place that stitch onto your left needle by swinging around and catch knit like a knit. Then you're going to come from the back between stitches, and you're going to purl, and then you're going to place it onto your needle. Then you're going to go in between those two stitches and knit and place that up on your needle. And you're just going to repeat that back and forth. So you just go in between your stitches, purl, and in between your stitches, and knit. And that's how we'll be adding on our stitches. For half of our back stitches, we're going to start by using this method to cast on 23 stitches. So once you have your 23 stitches cast on, then we're going to go ahead and pick up our needle that has all of our hat pieces connected to it, and we're going to put our newly casted stitches on our right hand needle. We're going to go ahead and knit across our ear flap. So we're just going to continue from our cast on, so kind of pull your stitch a little tight, and we're going to go ahead and knit across our 12 ear flap stitches. Like so. Then we're going to turn our work around, and we're going to go ahead and cast on 2 stitches. So you're going to go in between your stitches, knit, place it up on your left hand needle. Then we're going to come between the stitches in the back, purl, and then place it on your left needle. Okay, then we're going to turn our work again, pick up our other needle, and we're going to go ahead and knit across our 21 front flap stitches. So once you've knitted all those, we're going to go ahead and turn our work. We're going to cast on 2 stitches. So go in between your stitches, knit, pull through, place it on your left needle. You're going to come from the back, purl between the stitches, place it up on your needle. Then we're going to turn our work again, pick up our other needle, and we're going to knit across the next set of 12 ear flap stitches. Alright, then we're going to turn our work, and we're going to cast on our next set of 23 stitches to complete our hat. So you're just going to go off your ear flap stitch, go in between, knit, place it up on your left hand needle. Go in the back in between, purl, and place it on your left hand needle, and just continue that until you have your 23 stitches. So once you've done all your casting on and all your pieces are together, you will now have 95 stitches. So you're just going to go ahead and keeping it flat, no joining. So then we're just going to continue and stockinette stitch for 6 1/4 inches. So once we have our length all worked here, we're going to begin our decreases. So we'll be decreasing 10 stitches every other row. So we're going to start with row 1 of our decrease, which will be on the right side of your work with the knit side facing you. We're going to begin a repeat of a slip slip knit, knit 15, knit 2 together. And you're going to repeat that all the way around. That's going to take our count down to 85 stitches. For row 2 and all wrong side rows, we're just going to do a plain purl row. And you're going to continue in that method where we start with a decrease, knit across to 2 stitches less than the previous row. If you've done decreases, you know, so because we worked across 15, our next row will be 13, then 11 and 12, and so on like that. So we start with a decrease, we go across so many stitches and end with a decrease. And you're going to keep doing that until you end up with 15 stitches. The full written instructions for this decrease is down in the description box below. It's pretty simple and like any ordinary decrease, so you can check out the full written instructions below. But once you get down to 15 stitches total, then we'll come back to the video. So once you've got down to your 15 stitches, you're going to work a plain purl row, and when you're back on the knit side, we're going to do our final decrease row, which is just going to be knit 2 together for the whole row, which will take us down to 8 stitches. So you'll be left with just 1 stitch, which you're just going to knit. And then like any other hat, we're going to cut a fairly long tail because we'll be sewing up the back end of our hat. You're going to thread your yarn through your remaining stitches and pull really tight for the top of your hat. And then we're going to go ahead and sew our back seam. And you can use any sewing method that you like best for sewing up your projects. We're just going to sew it straight down. So once you have your hat all sewn, you're going to go ahead and flip up our middle flap. And you're going to take your buttons and you're going to sew them onto the front, tacking the flap to the hat. So here is your 6 to 9 month size aviator hat. I hope you guys enjoy this one, and let me know how it worked out for you. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. So you can click here and see the last video that I uploaded, and don't forget to come back to check out the new video I have for tomorrow. I'll be uploading every day from the 17th of March to the 31st. Hope you guys enjoy.